So yes, going out on this journey, it was out into a lot more of what I would call open sea, what anybody would call open sea, than what I would do on a normal day's sailing, where on a normal day's sailing, here we go, my excellent map drawing skills. I'm kind of like, when it's windy, wind blowing from this sort of direction, this is Vasiliki Bay. And I know that if I'm sailing over here, and the most common bit of boat failure, which would result in needing to be needing help or not being able to sail, would be that the mast comes down. So it's probably, I don't know, roughly 2 miles across when we get to the sort of outer limit of where we're sailing. So I know that if the mast comes down with the wind blowing in this direction, within a couple of hours, if there was no safety cover, Wildwind Sailing Holidays has excellent safety cover, by the way. And as all of our super sticker donations know, Jens Hussein and Ryan from Maui, thanks very much for the super sticker, keeping the Q&A ad free. This is great. Yeah, I'd know that within a few hours in the strong wind, I would be on land again. Might not be the best bit of land, but when you're getting blown across such a distance, if you've got quite a distance to the bit of land that you're getting to, even if you have got no mast up, you have got a little bit of influence over which way the boat will, where the boat will end up. It might only be a few degrees. So if we just put on what our possible trajectory might be, if we were to start there, we could probably influence the boat between this sort of range without having the mast up. How would we do that? We could put all of our weight on one hull. So if we're sailing with 2 people, if we sink this hull, the boat is going to turn this way a bit more, and vice versa, of course. If we've got the sails on the boat, we could kind of lift the sail up a bit to actually make the sail work in such a way to give us a little bit of steering. Yeah. Or even if you stand up on the boat and you're getting blown downwind, if the boat is moving through the water, you will have a little bit of steering, which could influence where we end up. But that's not what we're talking about here. No, we're talking about when we're out in open sea, what would happen if we ended up in a situation where we could not sail the boat. Well, that is why this journey to Pig Island for me was it's a quite a big deal, which is why I've made quite a big deal out of it, because it's a big deal. And the big deal of it is that we haven't got this safety net of land that is going to catch us reasonably soon if something happened. So what precautions, safety measures did I take? Well, obviously I thoroughly checked the boat before even rigging it to make sure that everything that could be checked had been checked, so that the mast was least likely to come down. But then other than that, what did we do? Well, we had phones and we had VHF radio, so that we could communicate with whoever we could if we did need picking up. So the most dubious bit of this whole expedition would have been if there was the big ferry which goes from Italy to Greece coming across. We were sailing kind of down here and the mast came down here. Then that would be the most dangerous, iffy thing to happen, because mast down, we'd be quite difficult to spot from the ferry with the direction of the sun and everything. So that would be the most dangerous thing. But if we were just left drifting out here, then there are, out at sea or around the area, there are a lot of yachts, and a lot of yachts just going between the islands. And if we transmitted on channel 16 on the VHF, somebody would respond, and it might not be for 5 hours or something, but eventually we would get a tow. This is what I think. So that was the safety precautions that were taken. Communication devices. There were a lot of people who knew what we were doing. And, you know, we always had the option to phone Wildwind headquarters, which is based down here, and they could have dispatched a powerboat to come and tow us. Granted, it wouldn't be ideal for anybody involved, but that was basically it. The other safety measure that was taken was recruiting Riley, who I was sailing with, because Riley is a very accomplished catamaran sailor, and I knew that if anything happened to me, he would be able to take care of the boat, to sail the boat, and vice versa. I knew that if something happened to him, I would be able to sail the boat. So that is what we had there. Thanks for the question, Joss. Yeah, but nothing more. I didn't have a motor or even a paddle, because out there, a paddle, you're just going to be paddling indefinitely, possibly. Better not to have the temptation. And if we had have been in a situation where paddling would have been appropriate, then we could have taken the centerboards, used those as paddles. You can do that with any boat with a removable centerboard or dagger board. Take it out, use it as a paddle. There we go. All right. So I know some of you watching are here because of the announcement of who has won the holidays to come to Wildwind Sailing Holidays. I'm just waiting for the website that is hosting the raffle to make the announcement, because unfortunately it's not up to me to pick the all right, we've had an update. We have had an update. The winners are about to be announced. Okay, so view winners, it says on the website, notifying winners, blah 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 blah. I'm just reading what it says on the website here. Winners. Okay, before viewing, you must confirm which prize will be awarded. You have 6 days to do this. All right, I'm just finding out what to do. This is only the second time that I have done this. So confirm the prize as advertised. All right. Sorry, this is taking a little bit longer than I thought. Prize as I've advertised. Confirmation. You confirmed that the winner will receive the prize as advertised. Yes, I did. So now can I click on the thing that says winners? All right. So the first winner, and I believe who's as excited as I am? I'm so excited because this is amazing. Now I just have to point out that the last week at Wildwind has already started for this year. So these prizes are for next year. Sorry, am I building the suspense enough by having to find out how to find out the winners in real time? All right, this is very exciting. So the first winner, and I believe from the UK, due to a .co.uk email address, is Chris Mitchell. Chris Mitchell, come on down. Yes, you are our first winner for the week for 2 people at Wildwind Sailing Holidays for next year. I will be in touch to let you know, just to get in touch so that we can touch base, so that we can start talking about when it is that you'd like to come out. So Chris, congratulations. You're coming on holiday for a week of champagne sailing. I'd recommend end of June is the best time to come. But all right, so the second winner, sorry, the suspense is heavy. If any of the winners are in the watching live, it'd be great to hear from you, by the way, as you'd expect. The second winner for a week for 2 people at Wildwind. Now, I believe this winner is from, I think, from Germany, because their email address finishes with .de, which I believe in Germany you'd say .de. So the winner of the second prize for a week at Wildwind Sailing Holidays is David Orloff. David Orloff, you are a winner. So there we go. Chris and David, you are the winners of the week at Wildwind. If I now see the amount of people watching the live Q&A drop down to 0, I'll see that there is disappointment in the air. But yeah, big congratulations to the winners, and a massive thanks to everybody who got involved, bought a ticket or some tickets. Commiserations to everybody who didn't win, but you know where we are. And yes, and the champagne sailing is here. But I look forward to meeting David and Chris and their friends who are, you know, David and Chris have now got friends saying, who you thinking of taking? Yeah, that kind of thing. So there we go. Those are the results of the raffle. Thanks again for everybody who was buying tickets. The proceeds of the raffle are going directly to keeping Joyrider TV coming. To be honest, the revenue from Google is not paying the bills. Yeah, that's the bottom line. And for the future of Joyrider TV and on to bigger and better things, hopefully bringing you the catamaran sailing content which you want in the future is coming. All right, so into the live chat just to check in with everybody who's checking in. And I believe the first time ever in the live chat, we have Uganda. Yes, we've got Igor, which is actually Lucius, who is the youngest sailor on the speed stick, 8 years old, I believe. Nice to have you with us, Lucius. Jens is on board. Jens, who's already come forth with a super sticker. Funnily enough, having announced the winners of the raffle, we've now got more people watching live. That's good. Maybe it was too much suspense for some people. Peter, F18, channel member Peter, great to have you on board, Peter, and on board. Evening, fingers crossed. Yeah, unfortunately, unless you happen to be friends with Chris or David, who are the winners, not this time. Hans is on board. Hans is actually in Vasiliki, Lefkas, Greece currently. Great to have you with us, and great to have you with us, Hans. Jochen is on board as well. And I believe... Oh, all right. Actually, I've just got to clarify something. Sorry, Lucius, but you're not the youngest person on the speed stick. Paul, who is in the live chat, he says, my 3-year-old son is on the speed stick. So there you go. 3 years old and already on the speed stick. That is, I think we can only call that a flying start. All right. So Jochen's question is, here we go. What is the optimal time to open the downhaul and mast rotation before hoisting the spinnaker? Would it be directly before or after the bear away? God, that's a good question. And, you know, to be absolutely honest, it's it's one that has often puzzled me a little bit. I would okay, so let's where are we? Let's get organized. Sorry, the excitement of the competition has left me a little bit overwhelmed. You know, what can I say? So if we're going round a buoy, let's say, here's the wind. We've just come up, we're just coming up to the top mark and ready to go for the bear away to put the spinnaker up. Okay, so what we want to make sure is if it's light winds, firstly, let's clarify this. So just for those of you who aren't spinnaker sailors, if you're sailing an F18 style boat or F16, then when you're sailing with the spinnaker up, or any spinnaker boat basically, if you've been sailing with the downhaul pulled on, we want to ease the downhaul off basically to the minimum, to put more curve into the sail for the downwind leg. And we also, if we've had the mast rotation pulled in for upwind sailing, we want to loosen the mast rotation off for the downwind. So I would say it's what is best. It's basically what is, because we know that when we're here on the downwind leg, we want to have the downhaul released and we want to have the mast rotation off as well, so that the mast is allowed to rotate all the way round, because this is going to be best for our airflow and for supporting the mast, so that we're least likely to break the mast when we're going downwind. So at what point do we do this? In light winds, no need, because if we haven't been trapezing, well, in my opinion, will have been sailing upwind with the downhaul set to minimum anyway, and will have been sailing with the mast rotation so that it's I'll just pop him there. Can we see it? Yes. So that the mast, have we got yes, we have. So that the mast, this is the mast, if we can see this in blue, is pointing at the shroud. This will have been our mast setting on the upwind. So when we turn from upwind to downwind in the light winds, we don't need to alter anything. That can stay the same, the mast and the downhaul. So it's when it's windy, that is what we're talking about. So ideally, I would say when the crew goes in, if you've got a separate tack line, this of course we really want to have the spinnaker at the end of the spinnaker pole, so tack line out before we get to the buoy. So crew goes in off the trapeze, releases the mast rotation immediately, because then it's done. Yes. If it's double trapezing conditions but not survival, then also at that point releasing the downhaul is going to be really good as well. And in fact, releasing the downhaul before the bear away, I'm just sort of working this out, the procedure for myself in real time, but releasing the downhaul is going to be favorable for the bear away, because otherwise what's happening as we bear away is, if we're sheeting out as we bear away and we've got the downhaul absolutely cranked on as hard as it will go, the mast is going to be under a lot of compression, and we could, and in fact, I have in the past, you might have seen the video, you could break the mast by doing big bear away with a lot of main sheet going out with your downhaul absolutely cranked on. So downhaul off, mast rotation off before the bear away. Now, if it's really windy, you want to have the spinnaker flapping around at the end of the spinnaker pole for as short a period as possible. So do the downhaul and the mast rotation first, spinnaker to the end of the pole, tack line out. Then as you bear away, then the spinnaker's going up. So might have to be easing out traveller and main sheet for the helm to make it around the bear away. And then as soon as you bore away and the boat is on the new course as the helm, then wind it back in, crank it back in, and then we are off. So there we go. And if we just finish off by saying, what about when we're going back upwind? So we've got the boat in that situation as we're coming into the buoy. The crew has got a lot to do when it comes to the downwind with the dropping of the spinnaker. Perhaps you're on a boat with dagger boards and you have to put the dagger boards down as well, or at least the leeward dagger board down. So I would say as soon as you're committed to releasing the halyard of the spinnaker, when you're ready to release the halyard, maybe I would say if we're really looking to optimize our routine, at that point, just before you release the halyard, pull the mast rotation back on, then release the halyard, so that once we are going back upwind, the mast is already in the correct position. However, if you have got mast rotation, which is adjustable from the trapeze, it's not quite as essential. And in the heat of battle, if you're racing, you're wanting to keep the spinnaker up for as late as possible. So perhaps better, you're going to gain more by keeping the boat going at full speed down here, because the difference between full speed and kind of doing jobs on the boat down here is going to be less different from when you're going upwind if you're distracted by having to pull the rotation back on. So there we go. That is what I think on that topic. That's a great question, Jochen. Got me thinking. We got a lot of those for this Q&A, by the way. Lovely old job. Great to have you all here with us on the Saturday. Wow, who knew? Next week, by the way, we'll be back on Friday, so everyone will know where they are or what day it is. Okay, so I've got Paul in the live chat who sails a C2 Formula 18. All right, Paul says, I feel like I can't go full power going downwind. When I fly the leeward, when I fly a hull, sorry, I'm not very good at reading, so it seems. When I fly a hull, the leeward hull digs in hard, killing our boat speed. We are both all the way to the back of the boat. What are we doing wrong? Okay. Yeah, I think that was a pretty easy question for everybody to understand what Paul means by that. So when it's windy, when he's trying to power the boat up going downwind, the leeward hull is digging in really perhaps early, easily. Now, the first thing that is going to kind of overpower, there's two things that I can think of which would be doing this. One of them, maybe three things. One of them is your dagger boards are not in the correct position. So if your dagger boards aren't lifted enough, it's going to do two things. Sorry, I'm just unpacking my hulls. So this mast is now a dagger board. So if we've got the dagger board down too far, then what happens when we start going fast is we're getting pressure on the dagger board pushing backwards from the speed of the boat going forwards. And if you think of this as pushing a lever, when you push that, that is going to push that. That is That is one reason. Dagger board's down too far. Another thing that would affect it is if the rudders aren't trimmed correct, aren't set up correctly, and they're not trimmed down enough. So if they're too far back, then having the rudders too far back when you're sailing off the wind, whether it is a half wind, beam reach course, or downwind, having the rudders up like that, that is going to lift the back of the boat. So it's going to be lifting the back of the boat. And of course, by lifting the back of the boat, it's going to be forcing the bows in. Okay. Next one is if your mast is too far forwards or upright. So if the mast is kind of like, I'll get rid of him, is kind of forwards a bit, then this is an exaggeration. But if we haven't got enough mast rake on, as soon as we start going off the wind, we're going to be putting too much pressure from the rig over the front of the boat. And again, that's going to drive the bows down. All right. So we've got a few that we can look at there. But what was the other big one that I was thinking? All right. The biggest one, and in my experience, this is something that really makes the boat much less giving on the downwind legs. And that is if the spinnaker is pulled in too tight. So if the crew isn't almost constantly easing the spinnaker out to make sure it's not in too tight, the boat is going to slow down and we're going to have more pressure coming from behind the boat, because like the true wind direction is going to be like this. And the way that we're able to fly the spinnaker in strong winds is by sailing fast. If the spinnaker is in too tight, we're not going to be sailing particularly quickly, which means, or we're not going to be sailing quickly enough, which means we're going to have too much pressure in the rig, which when the wind is coming this way, that all that pressure is going on to the leeward bow of the boat. Okay, so those are a few things that it could be there, Paul. Yeah, let us know if any of that sounds like a possibility. But that is what springs to mind initially for why that might be the thing. There we go. All right, back into the live chat. All right, so we've got Storen on board. Nice to have you with us, Storen. He says, sadly, I don't have a cat yet. I was thinking about connecting my two sailing dinghies, though. Yeah, nice idea. Greetings from Germany. Great to have you on board. Okay, Duke is with us. Hello, Duke. Duke says, as someone named Chris, I just had a heart attack. Yeah, sorry for that, Duke. I thought the .co.uk email address might have been a small sign to you that it might not have been you this time. But yeah, thanks for supporting the cause and for getting involved. All right, Les is on board. Hello. Hello again from Lake Tyler in Texas. Hope to see you in Corpus Christi. Yes, I'm coming to Corpus Christi. Am I scared? Yes. That start line is going to be fierce when pushing. Yeah, I absolutely can't wait. I think it is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. In fact, 1 month from today, 4th of November, is when the US Multi-Hull Championship for the Hobie Alta Cup is starting in Corpus Christi, Texas, USA. Yes. So, yeah, I'm also going to, of course, have to look at some camera mounting ideas for the Hobie Wave, because having not really, or not actually mounted a camera on a Hobie Wave before. But yes, very exciting times. All right, Hung Like Tic Tacs is on board and says, hey, Les, if you're ever up in Austin at Lake Travis, hit me up. Yes. Nice. All right, we've got Max on board. Max is currently in on Lefkas Island and currently Oasis Sunset Taverna. Now that is a nice spot. All right, and we've got one of the competition winners on board in the live chat. David is on board and he says, could not be happier, looking forward. Yeah, David, I'll send you an email I'll send you an email when I've finished the Q&A actually, and then we'll be in touch and then we can talk about what the next part of the process is in turning that prize into a booking, which means that then you will be booked. But yeah, congratulations and look forward to seeing you out here next year. As I said to Chris, if it was me, I would look at end of June, start of July as the best time to come out. I think that is when you've got the most consistent wind, nice water temperature, nice good wind in the afternoon, light wind in the morning, and also it's before it gets busy as well, which is nice. It's nice to have that. There's always plenty of space on the water, as you've seen in the videos. But what do you prefer, plenty of space or even more space? Even more. That's what I like. But congratulations. All right. So Duke says, Bass Pro Shops bought Hobie. What are your thoughts? Bass Pro Shops wants Hobie for their fishing kayaks. Yeah. To be honest, Duke, on the topic of Hobie getting bought in the USA, I really couldn't comment. I'm just hoping for the best. And I'm going to talk, I'm going to talk to some of the guys from Hobie Cat Europe who I know and some of the big dealers in Europe, see what they think, because they're going to have much more of an idea of what this means rather than me. I just make videos using Hobies, yes, but I'm hoping that it is an organization who has got the means to support everything that Hobie do. And I think almost more importantly than supplying new boats is keeping the spare parts coming for everybody who already has the boats. I think that is what I think would be most people's concern, because if you can't buy a replacement mast base, for example, then it's like a real, well, what am I going to do? Put a Nacra one on there? Oh no. All right. Yeah, so David, competition winner, says, greetings to everyone, by the way, from Kiel, Northern Germany. Great stuff, David. Okay, so back into the preloaded questions. The next one is from no stranger to the speed stick, Steve Ned Kelly, who sails on Lake Weber in Queensland, Australia. And all right, and Steve says, so when he's on a speed run, there's a lot of water spray coming from the leeward hull. And a lot of that spray coming from the leeward hull is hitting the underside of the trampoline when going over 20 knots. And Steve says, could this be creating some lift and possibly preventing nosediving and less drag? Steve continues, one of my Hobie 16s, Steve's got more than one, has a mesh trampoline, so the spray just comes straight through the trampoline. and the wind comes through it as well. And he said it's a totally different boat to sail in over 20 knots, feels less twitchy. Yeah, this is a tough one. I would say to really know if it is the trampoline, because even though there are not very many things that you can change on a boat like a Hobie 16, even though that is a consideration, there are enough things that you can change on a Hobie 16 which might actually be influencing how the boat sails rather than the trampoline. So if time and effort allows, to swap the trampolines over, even from what you would consider to be the faster boat, put the mesh trampoline on what you consider to be the faster boat and see what difference it makes. See if it makes it feel different. Because I wouldn't have thought that the water hitting the trampoline would give you more lift. Although there is a chance. If anybody from the science department would like to chip in on this, either in the live chat or in the comments that we can all read later on, that would be very good, because I really couldn't say. The only thing that springs to mind, well, one thing that springs to mind also is with the mesh trampoline, there is, you know, in other classes of boat, like the F18 and the A class, especially, if this is our the side profile of our boat, which we can do better with, and we've got a solid trampoline on there that the air can't pass through, then perhaps we are, with the boom being quite low on the 16, perhaps that is going to stop quite so much air escaping around the bottom of the mainsail. This much talked about end plate effect, like you have on an airplane's wing, to stop the air from spilling off the end of the mainsail. But does this sound a bit far-fetched? Maybe. So all I can think is swap the trampoline, one of the trampolines, onto the other boat and see if that makes a difference. And then we'll get the science department involved as well. So that's all I can help you with on that one there, Steve. So Steve's got a second question. And this question is, a couple of our Hobie 16s at Lake Weber are very special. Why? Because they have less bend in the front beam. So usually the front beam on a 16 would have a significant amount of bend. And by having, so he says that it's got much less bend in the front beam, which means the distance between the bottom of the mast and the dolphin striker is much less. How could this be? Well, it sounds like there was a batch of boats made with a slightly less curved. So if that's an exaggerated normal front beam, less curve would be more like that. Now, what would this actually do to the boat? You see, this will be a contributing factor into why your boats feel different as well. But if you've got more bend in the front beam, this is assuming that the front beam is the same length, then what that is going to do, if we've got, there's one hull, if we bend the front beam, it's going to mean that the bows of the boat are closer together. Might not be by much, but the bows of the boat are coming together more, which is bringing the back of the boat out more, which certainly means that you're going to have to do something with the rudders to stop them from being towed in way too much. Yeah, this is really getting pretty science here on a Saturday evening for anyone. Whereas if the front beam isn't, you know, if we went to an extreme and the front beam was really flat, then the boat is going to be much more parallel. Or even if it's going way too flat on the front beam, the boat might actually be towed out a little bit, which we certainly don't want. So that is what's going to happen to the boat if we're changing the bend in the front beam. I've attempted to do a lot of research when it comes to the amount of tension in the front beam, and the measurements that I've been given don't really tally with the European Hobie 16s. Maybe in the Australian 16s, I got some measurements from ex-world champion Gavin Colby, and I haven't got these numbers to hand, but he gave some very specific numbers, and it didn't measure at all on the European boats that we have here, but perhaps on the Aussie boats it would. But that is the difference that the bend in the front beam is going to make. And the main thing for everybody sailing a Hobie 16 with dolphin striker tension, so there's the dolphin striker. The dolphin striker is there to support the beam so that the pressure of the mast going down doesn't flatten the beam out, and which could cause cracking or breaking. So what we're looking for in the dolphin striker, this is the science that I've received from doing research, is when you whack it, it doesn't rattle. There you go. Don't let your dolphin striker rattle. If your dolphin striker is too loose, you risk cracking here. If your dolphin striker is too tight, if these are our castings here, then you risk cracking here and here. So there we go. Unfortunately, Steve, that is the best that I can do on this topic. It's one that has baffled me for many years. So we're going to leave that there. Hopefully some of the science department will be able to jump in on some of that. Okay, back into the live chat. Okay. All right, David, competition winner, says, I'd love to take the week of the Ionian Regatta race if possible. That is a fine choice. It is an absolutely epic week with long distance races, round the rock races, which you will have seen on Joyrider TV pretty much every day. And then the real long distance race, the Ionian Regatta, not quite as far as Pig Island, but still a good distance on any day of the week. Yes, good choice. We'll take a look at that. Okay, we've got channel member MP on board. Provisional date of the race is the 16th and the 17th of September 26. I think I will be at Wildwind too. Great stuff, MP. Try to think if that is somebody that I know. You'd think it would be, because I'm usually at Wildwind at that sort of time. All right, next preloaded question. And this one comes from PT Exclusive. Back to the Pig Island video. Curious why Riley, my tall Australian crew for the Pig Island excursion, why is Riley playing the main sheet whilst sailing with the spinnaker? He's basically doing the same thing as the crew is doing with the spinnaker sheet, making sure that at no point the mainsail is sheeted in too hard. Now, which means having the main sheet in tight, then easing, watching the telltales on the main. Let's just draw this on. We just, like I said earlier, for the spinnaker, if the spinnaker is too tight, then it's going to slow the boat down. And the same thing goes for the mainsail. It's going to slow the boat down. And even if sailing slowly doesn't mean we're more likely to stick the bow in, it's kind of like the whole aim of sailing catamarans is to sail as fast as possible at all times. We've got leech telltales on the mainsail, and the leech telltales tell us that that part of the sail isn't oversheeted. So playing the main sheet in the same kind of way that we're playing the spinnaker, what we're trying to do is have that one just going off round the back of the mainsail and the other three flying nicely. So we'll be if all four are flying, then we're pulling in the main sheet, watching for this one disappearing. When that one disappears, that's the good spot. If the next one disappears, it's a bit too tight, so we're just easing out again. So we're going between having them all flying and having this bottom one. It wouldn't be that low down. My sail is not to scale, by the way. They'd all be in the upper battens of the mainsail, and we're just easing the sail until this one appears again, and then pulling it in again, but not easing it so much that this one comes out, all the same way as we're playing the spinnaker. All right. Okay, so I'm just going on to my last preloaded question. This is a hot topic for me. So this one comes from Good Life Sailing. Hello, Good Life Sailing. Nice to have you on board in the preloaded question department. Good Life Sailing says, do I prefer the Forward WIP EXO harness over the Magic Marine Pro Racing harness, trapeze harness? Yeah, so I don't think I've ever knowingly used a Magic Marine Pro Racing harness, but I do use a Magic Marine Smart harness. And yeah, the reason that currently I'm using a Magic Marine Smart harness rather than the Forward WIP EXO harness is because on the Forward WIP harness, personally, with my my dimensions, how tall I am or how not tall I am, I can't get the spreader bar of the harness low enough down. Now, what I mean by that, I think for me, I think I've done a lot of trapezing and I know what I like. So if this is, there we go, a different kind of drawing to normal. Yes, it's going pretty well so far. All right, that's pretty good. I think the best place for the spreader bar of your harness is to be where the belt would be on your trousers, because that is right at the kind of that bit where your body pivots, and it really takes the most of the strain off your whole body if you can have your spreader bar there. If it's any higher, it just puts more effort lower down. If it's any, and you wouldn't ever get it any lower, to be honest. So that is why the Magic Marine Smart harness for me is much more comfortable than wearing the Forward WIP harness, even though the Forward WIP exo harness has got loads of back support, loads of protection, whereas the Magic Marine Smart harness doesn't have masses of support. It's a very soft harness. Yeah, but that is why I'm preferring the Magic Marine, basically because of the height that I can get the hook. But what I also like about the Magic Marine Smart harness specifically is that it's not bulky. That it when you've got it on, it doesn't like stick out anywhere. It basically fits to you in a very similar way to your wetsuit or whatever else you're wearing. It doesn't stick out at all. Whereas these bigger, more bulky harnesses, which I would dare say I haven't tried one, but the Magic Marine Pro racing harness as well, the bigger and the more supportive the harness is, there's more bulk to them, which makes it a little bit more awkward moving around the boat. But when you're on the trapeze, it's like sailing in an armchair. Yeah, so that is the why. So thank you very much, Good Life Sailing, for your question. I hope that is a good answer. Yeah, there we go. But if some trapeze harness manufacturers would like to send me like maybe 2 harnesses from each of your ranges, I would gladly do a trapeze harness comparison testing, and we can really, but you see, the thing is, I could say, yes, this is the best trapeze harness for me, but that doesn't mean it's the best for you. You might have, you might be a different shape. You might be really tall. I'm not really tall. And you might have a different preference. Everybody is very different, which makes it very difficult to say, is there a best? There are certainly features that are good, like on the Forward WIP exo harness, as well as it having, like, if these are the back straps that go under here, it has the back support straps come down to a single strap which goes to the spreader bar. Looks like a sailor's suit, I know. He's got big feet now as well. But what it has, which is a great feature on the Forward WIP harnesses, is it has an adjustment here. So if you want to wind on your back support, which I find, if you're sailing, like if you find yourself thinking, cool, this is a bit of an effort, want more back support, but to get underneath the buoyancy aid and grab it there, it's really quite awkward. Whereas to grab it here, just above the bar, you just pull it and then you've got more back support. Easy, great feature. So there's different features, but I think the best is to just try out as many as you can. Like a good sailing equipment shop or chandlery, if I had my own chandlery, I would have some sort of trapeze simulator inside the shop or maybe outdoors, so that you could at least try on a trapeze harness and simulate being on the trapeze to see which one you feel is the most comfortable. They are relatively expensive, I think, and you don't want to be buying one which isn't correct for you or the right size. So to be able to try it before you buy it, at least in a simulated environment, that would be really valuable. All right, so back into the live chat. Paul says, how is your Greek? Are you bilingual yet? Yes, my Greek is not as good as it should be, but it's I think it's almost good enough to get away with. I think that is the bottom line there. All right, we've got Paul on board, fastest single-handed Hobie 16 sailor on the stick currently, saying hello from northern Italy. Nate is with us. Nate is from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, sails a Hobie 16 on Lake Superior, my season just got cut short after snapping a hull in half. Gosh, that is bad news, Nate. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, we're all there with you, man. Yeah, that is a bad turn of events. I should just keep an eye on anywhere that sells used stuff, and you never know when you're going to see a listing for Hobie 16 hulls free giveaway, or whole boat free giveaway for parts or something. So I would just, if it was me, I would be scanning everything to try to get hold of some hulls. All right, Les is on board. All right, and I think Les's question is going to be the last question today. We've been going for 1 hour, which I believe is long enough. With all the excitement, that's a lot of excitement. Les says, what does rudder stall mean when you're coming up to speed? I think you call it rudder stall or rudder wash or something like that. Yes, rudder stall. Different to heavy steering. I might actually use my Hobie 16 casting that I've got here. Yeah, so rudder stall is when you generally don't feel it until you start sailing quite fast. And you'd feel it when you start approaching 20 knots. And if we look at the hull from the back, and can we do this like what we want? This is our very long rudder blade. What we want is our rudder blade to sit straight down with the hull. So we really want it straight down. We don't want, you know, this rudder blade is going to be subject to pressure. So if we're sailing on, what would this be? Port tack. So the other hull is like here. Sail is over this side. Then we're going to get a lot of pressure pushing on the rudder blade from this side. And especially at the bottom of the rudder blade, we're going to get loads of pressure pushing on the rudder blade on this side. And if the rudder blade is allowed to move from side to side inside the stock like this, then it's going to end up that the rudder blade is coming like this. This is a bit of an exaggeration. And what we're going to get then is we're going to get a pocket of air on the windward side of the rudder blade, or at least really turbulent flow. So rather than a pocket of air, it would be very much aerated water on the windward side of the rudder blade. And basically what that does is it creates a massive amount of drag, so much drag that when you feel it happen, it would actually feel like somebody has thrown a bucket off the back of the boat and you're suddenly not sailing as fast anymore. Yeah, so, and then, you know, you're just going to sail slowly. And sometimes this rudder stall is going to put more load on the rudder blade, more actual load kind of pushing the rudder blade backwards. And it can actually be enough to kick the rudder up into the up position. So this is what we're talking about with rudder stall. And so what we want is the rudder blade dead straight down. And the other, so if we've got play side to side, then it could be that we need really, if there's way too much space, is I've actually glued rubber to the inside, these kind of inside edges of the rudder stock, just thin rubber, just enough to take that sideways movement out, because just to tighten the bolt up that goes through here, it might need you to tighten that so much that you can't actually put the rudder up and down, and that is not going to help. So that is what we're talking about. The other place that rudder stall can come from is if your rudder pin or your gudgeons and your pintles, if because of wear to the system, if the whole rudder stock is allowed to move from side to side, this is going to have exactly the same effect, and that is going to create rudder stall. So there we go. And back to whose question was it from before? It was one of the early ones. Oh, back to Paul's question from before about the C2 feeling like it wants to nosedive when you start going fast. If you've got rudder stall when you're going downwind, this is really going to lift the back of the boat up and push the front of the boat down as well, because it's almost going to act like your rudder blade is a foiling rudder blade, like because of the angle of it, it's going to try to lift the back of the boat, pushing the front of the boat down. So there we go. That is about the size of it with that. Okay, so on that note, yes, we're going to wrap it up there. Congratulations once again to David and Chris, who have won the competition to come out to Wildwind Sailing Holidays. I will put you in touch with the people to be in touch with to make the booking confirmed, and I'll look forward to seeing you out here next year. Other than that, I'll see you soon on Joyrider TV with some more. Thank you very much.